Let's go into a question from Amber. Any advice for befriending a lesbian couple without appearing to condone their lifestyle?
Well, I would suggest reading
Rosaria Butterfield.
There you go. I'm pausing because I never can pronounce her name proper. Rosario. And when I
Rosaria.
Oh, see, there you go. It was so embarrassing when I was doing the interview because I kept getting it wrong. So I just wanted to call her Rosie. Can I just call you Rosie? But anyway, she was a lesbian and deeply embedded in that lifestyle and was won to Christ over a period of time through the hospitality of a Christian pastor and the kindness. And I think you're going to find a lot in there. And I think that Christians who are deeply conscientious about this issue are afraid that friendship itself is condoning. And I don't think that's true. And I don't think that you have to weigh in against lesbianism or homosexuality in general in order to qualify the relationship you're having. You're really nice and we'll hang out a little bit. I just need to know that I think the way you live is sinful. So just so you got that, okay? Because I don't want you to misunderstand. No, I don't think we have to do that. I think we have to live with grace. And when opportunities in conversation come up, then you can take those opportunities to express your views. And it might, I think of the very first day, I wasn't even 24 hours old in Christ. And I had, my brother was with me and we had gone to the beach for body surfing, and then we came back and we having a barbecue with some friends. There were my brother and I and then two other married couples. And one was my doubles partner in tennis. And this gal pulled this chick tract that she had been given at the beach, and she is speaking disparagingly of it. Really disparaging. Oh, la la. And I just said, well, I believe that. I just weighed in, that's all. I wasn't looking to get into an argument. I just said, no, it did not end well, or at least that's the way it seemed to me. There was a kind of a ricochet evangelism kind of story, which I don't have time for, that 4 years down the road came to roost, and God rescued one of those people who became a Christian. However, I had no sense of it at the time. But how that got initiated is I was friends with them and everything. But when this issue came up in the disparagement, I just identified myself with the view that was being disparaged, and that gave opportunity for conversation. Now, if something like that might happen, and you befriend somebody, you hang with them, you're nice to them, sweet, hospitable to them, and you're not judgmental of their behaviors and stuff, and there's no sense doing that, by the way, because everybody needs Christ regardless of what their peculiar sins happen to be. So build that relationship. And then if something comes up and they said, oh, those Christians, and you said, well, I'm a Christian, you identify yourself, then that's going to be an opportunity for conversation. Well, all right, well, but you don't believe that. Well, I do believe that because that's what Jesus believed. And you never seem to act that way. Well, it's good. I'm glad that I've never acted in a bad way. You can just see how a conversation might go. But of course, this could be, at that point of revelation, could be the end of the relationship, because the other people will end it oftentimes. But I'm just describing a potential way to maneuver in that. But I'm especially answering the question, will this friendship potentially compromise my own view? And my answer is no. No, it won't. And if you read Rosaria's, did I get it right?
Yeah, that's right.
What's her last name?
Butterfield.
Oh, that's easy. Butterfield's book. And actually, she's got a couple of them. I think her most recent one is The Gospel Comes with a House Key.
Yes, so I think the most recent one is on the topic of hospitality.
Yeah.
So it goes deeper into that idea. The first one I think is called The Secret Thoughts of an Unlikely Convert. I think that's the name of that one. She might have three, but...
I think she has three. The first one is her testimony. The second one is something else but she's a great source.
Mm-hmm. And it's good for people to see what difference it made to her just to have this friendship with Christians and how that changed her life. What Alan always says is, you treat them the same way you treat any of your lost friends.
Yeah.
if you had friends who were living together, you wouldn't feel the need to say, just so you know, I'm against you living together. It's just, for some reason, we feel like we have to make ourselves clear on this topic, but just treat them the way you would anyone else, any other lost person that you're befriending and that you're close to. So if you have any questions about this, start thinking about those other friends and see how you would treat them. And that's a good clue to how to treat any friends who are gay or lesbian.
Yeah, and by the way, it doesn't mean that you can never bring it up. The question really is, will this necessarily be compromising in some way? I said it's not. But as your relationship builds, I mean, part of what friends do, a faithful are the wounds of a friend. What friends do is sometimes they speak the truth to other people. And so if you have a couple that's living together, whatever, there may be an opportunity to say, you know what, if you guys really love each other, why don't you get married?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't, to the man especially, make an honest, well, the phraseology that we used to use in the past now is not going to be acceptable. Make an honest woman out of her. But the idea is to protect the girl. The guy's getting what he wants for free. The gal's putting out, and she's getting something too, but she's the one vulnerable. Okay, the woman is the most vulnerable here. A guy can just get up and go. Woman can get pregnant. She can get dependent on a guy and whatever and all that other stuff. So there is a in a certain sense we talked about human flourishing before. There's a element of human flourishing that has to do with sexual behavior, and there may be a place in conversation with a friend to be talking about the behaviors and not like, God's mad at you. I mean, there may be a place for that too. I mean, certainly in communicating the gospel at some point. But you could engage these things when there's a good opportunity for the benefit of the couple in question here. It's for their good. And especially if they claim to be Christians or they're new Christians, that's when this conversation, I think, is appropriate.
That would be a much sooner conversation, I think. But thank you for clarifying that, because I don't want anyone to take my words as saying that you should never say anything about it. But when you're starting out and you're befriending someone, it's not, like you said, you don't lead with that. That doesn't even, it's not something people do. Mm-hmm. But thank you for saying that, because I do think the closer you get, the more likely these things will be discussed. And hopefully the relationship will survive that. And it did with Rosaria. So definitely read that book and see what she has to say.